Hey, what's up everybody, Captain Awesome, and today I'm going to talk about my prediction and the Amazing Atheist counter to my prediction. I am really glad that I waited until now, because TJ said in that video that Obama and McCain would not try to rush to the center. They had in other elections, but this election is different. Don't you hate that? Every election we're sold the idea that this election is different and important compared to all the other ones. Obama has been rushing to the center like a fat girl rushes to my cock if it were wrapped in bacon. The New York Times called it something like a pragmatist's move towards the center. Now, for example, take the Supreme Court gun ruling case. As early ago as April 16th, right, the question was put to him, is the D.C. law prohibiting gun ownership of handguns consistent with the individual's right to bear arms? And Obama said he supported the D.C. gun ban, and then it said, as general principle, I believe the Constitution confers an individual right to bear arms. But just because you have an individual right does not mean that states or local governments can't constrain the exercise of that right. Barack Obama, April 16th, 2008. Now here we have Barack Obama, June 25th, 2008, after the primaries. I have always believed the Second Amendment protects the right of individuals to bear arms. But I also identify the need for crime-ravaged communities to save their children from the violence that plagues our streets through common sense, effective safety measures. The Supreme Court has now endorsed that view. It's taking a big shift to the center, and also the whole dialogue that he has. Right? I'm not saying that his views have necessarily changed, but the issues he brings up, you know, his tax cuts, right? Now he's talking about all these middle-class tax cuts. I'm not saying he didn't want to do them in the primaries, but he didn't want to talk about them before. Also, he's blasting away at the left-wing Supreme Court's decision on banning executions for child rape, right? And where did you hear him ever praise the right wing of the Supreme Court during the primaries? Oh, absolutely not. So yeah, he's taking a huge shift to the center. And what's mysterious to me is McCain, right? Because my whole prediction was based on the fact Obama could not shift to the center, and that McCain could. And McCain, I guess if there's a lesson learned, never underestimate the stupidity of John McCain. Right? Okay. To put it in perspective, Bush was in the middle of his class at Yale, and at the U.S. Naval Academy, John McCain was in the bottom 0.5%. He was dumber than 99.5% of people who went to the U.S. Naval Academy. We bash Bush for being dumb. He was average. McCain is that much dumber than Bush. You know, and I don't think Barack Obama's any genius. You know, I think he coked his brains out the same as Bush. But McCain's a dumb guy. But given Barack Obama's near transparent rush to the center, I wonder if TJ still stands by this statement.
If Barack Obama moves to the center, he's going to lose.
Or if he just denies that Obama's rushing to the center altogether. The other thing I can't quite wrap my mind about it. A while ago, the Amazing Atheist said Barack Obama is nothing more than a pretty voice and an empty suit who other people fill in their own values to. Right? And now it's amazing to me because he seems to have done that exact same thing. For example, he says Obama has a great foreign policy. Right? And Obama's against the war in Iraq. But does he want to change foreign policy at all? Obama supports the same policy, the same overarching policy that McCain and Bush and everybody else does. Let me read you from something that Obama said about the independent country of Sudan. The United States should support the immediate deployment of an effective international force to disarm militia, protect civilians, and facilitate of humanitarian assistance in Darfur. Thus far, the African Union has offered 3,000 troops, and the United Kingdom has indicated they would offer some troops. However, international pressure is required for the Sudan regime to accept an international peacekeeping force. The U.S. must ensure humanitarian intervention with or without Sudanese government permission. And we must urge European governments who are not willing to send troops to Iraq to take on this mission. There is no question the United States military is currently spread thin with our earlier commitments in Afghanistan and Iraq. But that does not mean we should not be providing the resources we can, including logistical support like airplanes, helicopters, trucks, and other resources needed to deliver that humanitarian aid. This should be a swift and clear-cut decision. Now wait for this. It is not only an issue of saving lives in the Sudan, it is necessary to support our interests in the region, and our actions and leaderships will show who we are as a nation and a people. Right, so whether or not Obama is for the withdrawal of troops in Iraq over a fucking long period of time and leaving a residual force to make sure we protect so-and-so, he's clearly not against the overall policy of intervening in other countries' civil wars where we do not belong. So while if you vote on the issue of Iraq, right, I guess Obama makes sense. But if you agree, as TJ says, that he has a great foreign policy, it makes no sense at all. He doesn't have a different foreign policy than what we have had with every president for the last 80 years. Another thing that TJ says, he supports Obama because he's great on civil liberties, as evidenced by his high ACLU score. I would note, though, that TJ himself would get a low ACLU score because he doesn't support the 64 Civil Rights Act, right? He says the business owners have a right, TJ, not Obama, business owners have a right to discriminate against who they want. That's exactly what the 64 Civil Rights Act prohibited. And what the ACLU was, of course, that's one of their huge things. Also, something he said is that he thought, in a comment, TJ said he thought, Obama will restore our Constitution. How do I know this isn't true? Well, let me think. Because Obama says so! Barack Obama, The Audacity of Hope, page 89 through 92, he talks about the Constitution, and he says that the Constitution is a living document. When we get in a tussle, we appeal to the Founding Fathers and the Constitution's ratifiers to give direction, right? Some, like Justice Scalia, conclude the original understanding must be followed, and if we obey this rule, democracy is respected. Others, like Justice Breyers, insist that the original understanding can take you only so far, that on the truly big arguments, you have to take context, history, and the practical outcomes of a decision into account. In other words, stuff not in the Constitution. I have to side with Justice Breyer's view of the Constitution. It is not static, but rather a living document and must be read in context of an ever-changing world. I see democracy as a conversation to be had, and according to this conception, the genius of Madison's design is that it not only provides a fixed blueprint for action, it provides us with a framework and rules, and all the machinery are designed to force us into a conversation. Now, it's fine to agree with that, right? That is standard left-wing thought, right? I'm not saying that that is the wrong position to have, but you cannot really reconcile Barack Obama's position on the Constitution as a living document with a statement thinking that he will then restore the Constitution. He says himself he has no intention of doing so. So I don't know how TJ can possibly reconcile this crush with Obama with what Obama actually says. And of course, none of this comes from right-wing cable news. You know, that's always the conspiracy. If you disagree with me, you must be watching Fox News, right? I haven't had a television in almost a decade. This all comes directly from source, directly from Obama's speeches, what Obama said. You know, it's not anybody else's interpretation being fed towards me. I'm not repeating media punchlines. Anyway,